past haunts us all. Whether it be a person, place, or thing, we are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers. Hello and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I am your host, Justin Brown, and I am presenting episode 63, believe it or not, tonight with Patti Starr. I am super excited to talk to Patti tonight. It's somebody who has a vast knowledge in the paranormal field. We're going to introduce her and read a little bio, but before we do, we are going to introduce Jessica and Missy, the chat moderators this evening. How are you girls doing? Are you ready?
Good. How are you? I'm ready.
All right. Jessica?
Yes, I'm here and I'm ready and excited about the show.
All right. That's good to hear. So if you guys don't know the drill and you're first-time viewers, what's going to happen is if you want to shout it out and become part of the show, just comment, say hi or say something, or just start talking to the people in the chat, and we'll shout you out here in about 10 and 15 minutes. If you have any questions for our guests, please do not hesitate. Do not be shy. Please ask her anything within reason. Be tasteful, be classy, and let's enjoy this discussion of the paranormal with Patti. So, Patti Starr is a genuine, certified ghost hunter from Lexington, Kentucky, with over 40 years of experience. She has been blessed to have conducted ghost investigations in 3 different countries and 26 different states in the U.S. Her belief in ghosts is based on theory and conjecture that she has concluded through her research and experiences. Patti realizes that ghost hunting is not an exact science, so there isn't absolute proof that ghosts exist. However, she has collected enough evidence to support the possibility of the existence of ghosts and spirits. So, Patti, welcome. How are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Justin. And I'm loving that I'm going to be on your show tonight. Thank you so much for asking me.
Well, you're welcome. And I have to thank you for being on the show, because what had happened was I book a month or 2 in advance. And my guest forgot about the booking tonight. So I'm like, oh no, I'm going to have to find a fill-in. And I had seen something. I've been wanting to get you on the show, but I had seen something you had posted or someone posted about you. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Let me ask Patti. She might do it. So luckily you did.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. I'm sure you're not a stranger to being on paranormal radio and having discussions like we're going to have tonight. So I know that you are very prepared. So I have to ask you, you, Patti, what was it like getting into the paranormal field 40 years ago? Did you have any experiences? Did you wonder about these experiences, want to find answers? Was that your reasoning behind your journey into understanding and investigating the paranormal? Let us know how you got started, and if you would kind of elaborate on some things that may have happened to lead to that.
Well, basically, when you sort of witness things and you feel like it's totally, from another dimension, from another realm, and you don't really have any proof of it or evidence of it, it's kind of hard for people to understand. So a lot of times I didn't talk about it because, then they look at you like you're kind of crazy. And I was raised in a Baptist religion, and my parents were real strict about church and God, and, and that's the way I was raised. And when I was little and I would tell my mom I was having these experiences, she would say, "Oh, now, Patti, that's you're just imagining things." And I'm like, "No, this is not imagination. I know it's real. It's real. I see, I hear." And so then she would say, "Well, maybe you just woke up from a dream and the dream lingered. And I said, no, I wasn't asleep. That's not the case. And she would continue to try to give me reasonings why everything was, none of it was real. And then she would say, and for God's sake, don't tell the preacher. So it was one of those incidences where I thought, and later on in life, where I thought, gosh, it would be nice. So I think my first real evidence of feeling like I got something that I could say that was like paranormal evidence was in pictures of, family pictures and things where I would get like shadow people, or I would get some type of form or vortexes, or, just things like that. And then later in my work, I was always in retail management, and I would have to carry a recorder with me sometimes. And I would come in work early, and I would say notes into my recorder, like I'd make myself a little note, like when Cindy gets in, I must tell her to change the khaki pants display over to the new red shirt display or something. And sometimes I would pause in there as I was thinking of what to say as I walked through the store, and then I would listen back to it so that I could give each of them their notes. And then every once in a while I would hear something like, help me, or, and I'd be, oh my gosh, where did that come from? And then I realized that I was getting them on my audio. And then later on in life, I started meeting people, electronic engineers, and things that were talking about different meters that would measure energy. And then I learned about EMF. And then I just started going from one thing to the other, and it would excite me knowing that I could actually have instruments, whether it be, a camera, a camcorder, whether it be an audio device. It was just wonderful for me to finally figure out ways of sharing what I was experiencing, and then be able to share the evidence that I got, and then people could have visual and audible experiences when I would tell my stories. So that's how I guess I got started, as far as wanting to be able to, experience it. And then in 1995, I started teaching it, and I would have small classes. And then in 1999, I met a lady at our local community college, and they set me up to start teaching classes because I had so much evidence and so many different things that I could present. So then I taught Ghost Hunting 101, and then actually it was Introduction to Ghost Hunting, and then Advanced Ghost Hunting, and I taught that for 8 years at our local community college. So I guess that's kind of where I started, and then where I ended up.
That's pretty cool, Patti. I have to be honest. I have a few questions after hearing that.
Yeah.
So the act of investigating the paranormal was I'm going to assume that was more taboo 40 years ago than it is now.
Oh goodness, yes. I couldn't talk about it. I mean, you had to really, you really had to have somebody that was really close. And so a lot of things I did have to keep to myself. I remember one time sharing it. I was previously married before with my ex-husband, and I would freak him out. He would just say, please don't even talk to me about this. I'm afraid you're going to bring something evil into the home, which I wouldn't. But I couldn't even, share that information, or share what I could see or hear or experience. I just couldn't share it. I just couldn't. So a lot of it didn't start coming out until, where I could really express myself until about the 80s, I guess. I can tell you exactly when it became cool to start talking about your experience. And that is when X-Files hit TV. because you could talk about X-Files to a group. You could go in and say, "Oh, did you see X-Files last night? Yeah. Did you see where his sister, and whatever." And then people would kind of slide in a little, "Well, I don't know. I could halfway believe that because I think something like that happened to me once." See?
Right.
And then it started getting a little bit easier to talk about the paranormal when you were kind of including a favorite show. I mean, X-Files was that was hot. I mean, that was like the best show ever. And so I think that's when it became a lot easier to talk about what had, maybe possibly had happened to you. If you could, kind of mix it in with an experience of the X-Files.
Right. So in contrast, now we have paranormal TV and radio and podcasting. Probably hundreds are going on as we speak right now.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's
yes.
wonderful.
And it's really great. And I think, when the Ghost Hunter show came out, I think that was the most positive effect for our, what I refer to as the paranormal community, because these two guys come in and they had a catchy plumbers by day, ghost hunters by night, and so it put a real positive light on what we do. And it wasn't so much like, boy, they're crazy, or somebody needs to put them in some kind of institution. It was really nice. And so when their show came out, and then of course others like the Ghost Adventures, and then Paranormal States, and I think Psychic Kids, and it just kept kind of growing. Now we have the Ghost Brothers and just other shows that are out there and going. I just think that all really gave a very positive credibility to all of us.
Right. I agree. And we'll talk about that more, plus much, much more after we do some shout outs and see if we have any initial questions for you. So, Missy, go ahead and do some shout outs here on Facebook for us first.
Okay. I got Bill Davis. I got Derek Schreiner. I've got Deborah Sosby. I've got Heather Elliott. I've got 11 viewers, but nobody's commenting, so I don't know who is watching.
Okay.
And I have no questions at this time.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Again, if you want to be shouted out, we'll shout you out when you comment, and we'll make you feel part of the gang. YouTube, what's going on over there?
We have Joe, Val, and Jen, and we also have more that's not chatting. I think Joe's trying to get them engaged. But there's no questions or comments just yet.
Right. Actually, I forgot to make Joe an admin, so let me do that right now. Let me make him
You're giving him the power?
That's right.
Uh-oh.
Now he has power. All the Patreons get that power. So thanks for joining us there on YouTube. No questions yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I have one that just came in.
Okay.
It's, what is the most haunted place you have ever investigated?
Oh, wow. I love those questions. Let's see. I have several, so it's kind of hard just to pinpoint one. But let's see. I kind of think if I just kind of had to really bring one out of my all-time favorites, and a place where I really tend to get a lot would be the old Talbot Tavern in Bardstown, Kentucky. And I think a lot of people will ask me, of all the places that I have actually been able to do ghost hunting, what area do I feel like is the most haunted? And I know I live in Kentucky, but I really feel like Kentucky is just an awesome place to gather evidence when you're looking for results in ghost hunting. And I think a lot of it has to do with the geology of Kentucky. See, in Kentucky, especially in Lexington, there is a a shelf here underground, and it's limestone. And limestone has a lot of properties like crystals with the energy and everything. And we also have a lot of caves and caverns in Kentucky. As a matter of fact, the Mammoth Cave is the largest continuous cave in the whole world, and I think it goes over 300 miles.
Wow.
And so within those, within that type of geology, you have all types of stones and minerals, limestone and calcite. Calcite is the kind of mineral that holds memories. So when I think about that, for me, maybe that's the reason that we can get the apparitions coming through and the voices coming through. And then the partnership as we start to talk with the spirits and they move things for us or show themselves or they do things that we, like. So I just feel like Kentucky, if anybody, just about any place in Kentucky that I go to, I always feel like I have some really good results.
Yes, I have to agree with you on the Kentucky being a hot spot. It's in my belief that Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Indiana, that area, even parts of Michigan and in the Great Lakes area, is just so embedded with all the attributes that you mentioned, like the minerals, the rock, the glacier.
Yeah.
The glaciers had pushed down all that stuff from up north and deposited right around the Ohio River. And the Ohio River seems like it is an attribute that fuels the paranormal. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would. Absolutely. I just think it's a combination of everything. I always like when I go on my investigations, I like to use my own intuitiveness and psychic abilities, and then I also like to use the instruments. So I always say, for me, ghost hunting is about science and the sensitive. And so when you can take both of those and put them together, and then you come into your other natural things of the earth and your crystals and smudging and just all sorts of things that you can bring into that it's just awesome when you really go ghost hunting and you've got so many avenues that you can take, so many and that's why when I'm teaching my ghost hunting class, I always tell people that all I'm going to do in teaching is share what I've learned, and then it's really up to them to figure out how they want to actually conduct the ghost investigations themselves, because I think we all have this ability to go into places and maybe just through what we're either sensing or feeling, then that will kind of lead us to figure out, should we be doing should we be putting our meters together, or should we be taking pictures, or should we do an EVP session? So it's all different. Everybody, I think, kind of finds what way works for them, and then sometimes you can go into other places, and what works in one place will absolutely not work in another place. So that's another really neat thing about working and doing all these ghost investigations. You just keep learning and learning, and each experience, it gets a little deeper and more in depth, and your understanding becomes a little more clear as long as you continue with your investigations.
That's right. It's interesting that you said that every place is different. It's almost like every place is a secret recipe that's a little bit different from one to another. So that is a cool and mysterious thing about the paranormal that I also observe. Go ahead and keep going with the questions on Facebook. I've seen several.
Okay. Diana Price wants to know, have you ever investigated Reverend Akers' farm in Charlottesville, Indiana?
Oh, no, I have not, but it sounds kind of cool.
She also asked, do you believe in or have you ever encountered demons?
I do get that asked a lot. And for me, and I always like to tell people, as I answer questions, you got to know it just comes from my own personal experience and research and learning. And so for me, I don't think I have ever encountered anything evil or demonic. Now, I have encountered hateful and spiteful, because you do have those personalities sometimes that will come through. But as far as like evil, dark, demonic, I have to say, I have not. I have not. Now, people ask me, when you go on, have you ever been frightened or scared? Well, sometimes I have gone into places where I turn and bam, there's something there, and I'm like, oh, wow. And I get startled just for a second. And then I go into my appreciation. Oh, thank you so much. Please do that again. I'm sorry if I scared you, that type of thing, to explain why I was startled. But as far as evil or demonic, I really don't think I have ever encountered anything. Now, I have been pushed and slapped and pinched and scratched, but usually that is not demonic. A lot of times that's confusion or desperation, trying to get attention. But I don't ever take those assaults as someone that's being evil or demonic. A lot of times they're just desperately trying to get the attention. Some of them are scared or they don't understand. And so I deal with a lot of, not a lot, I've dealt with some of that, but not a whole lot. I start out every investigation with, I have a really, my own aura is a real bright white light. And so when I start out my investigation, I bring in the white light so that I don't really want to attract anything that's dark. And so that might be another reason that during all my years of investigating, even when I go into places where it is known to be dark, I don't really experience a lot of that.
Go ahead and read Heather Elliott's question, and then we'll go to YouTube.
What's the best EVP you've ever captured and why?
Oh my God, thank you so much for asking me this question, because I have the most awesome story. I went to a TB hospital in Paris, Kentucky. It has now been torn down. And when I got there, I was very blessed in getting an awesome EVP from a child. And the EVP said, "I've been sitting here all day." And it sounded just like a little girl. And it was very clear. She even had a Southern accent. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful. And I continued to listen on my earphones. And within just a few seconds, she said it again, which thrills me even more, because in my years of experience, and I've only come across 2 or 3 times when a ghost will repeat itself. So she repeated it again. She says, "I've been sitting here all day." But the second time that she said it, I was explaining to the students, because this was a particular field trip where I had taken the students with me to this TB hospital. And we were just discussing something that we were getting ready to do. So while I'm talking, she's saying, "I've been sitting here all day." But right when I stopped my sentence, all you could hear clearly from her was "all day." So I captured both of those EVPs, and then I downloaded them onto my computer, and I labeled them as, the first one was "I've been sitting here all day." The second one was all day. And then I got ready to do a presentation at one of the colleges. I did college lectures for several years. And I was preparing my PowerPoint, and I was like, oh, I want to make sure that I include these new EVPs that I got. Well, when I went back into my computer, I pulled up the first one, which said, "I've been sitting here all day." And then when I went to pull up the second one, something was very wrong. In my computer, I clicked on it, and it was garbled, and you can't even hear my voice. You cannot hear me talking to the students, and it's just like kind of gurgly, and I was like, oh my gosh, where's my EVP? And then it changed, and the little girl said, did you get it in the camera? It was totally different from what I had downloaded onto my computer.
What?
Did you get it in the camera? Yes. And so I said to myself, oh my God, what does that mean? Did I get it in the camera? I can't get her voice in my camera. Oh, she was talking about the camcorder. I ran and got my camcorder. I reran my film back to where I was standing when I got the little girl's audio. And at that point, I had captured it in my camcorder. So there's another first for me. She repeated it twice. I got it in two mediums. I got it in an audio recorder and a camcorder. And then she changed her EVP in my computer. Now that, to this day, was the absolute best evidence I have ever captured. She was literally wanting me not to miss the fact that I had her on camcorder.
Now, I have to ask you real quick and try to make this short because I want to get to YouTube questions. Since she changed the audio in the computer, do you think that she was there with you doing that?
She could have been. A lot of times they do follow me home. Sometimes they're with me for a couple of weeks. I think the longest I've ever had any one of them to stay with me was 6 weeks. I think that was the longest because it's just part of our journey. They're actually teaching. See, when I go on an investigation, I say, sweet spirit, please help us prove that you exist. With what we're doing here tonight, we are not going to exploit you or make fun of you. We just need for you to help us share this information. And it's just important for our meters to work, for our audios to work, for our camcorders to work. Please feel free so that we can capture this evidence and share it with others.
That's really compelling. A lot of people believe that, a lot of spirits just want their story to be told. So it seems like that was the case this time.
Yes.
All right. YouTube. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. I have a couple questions. I do have Marie join and Sandy Griffin joins. I think that's it. Okay. Val asks, what was your best paranormal experience? And what was your worst paranormal experience?
Okay. All right. Just to be very honest with you, the best paranormal experience, I think, for me was when I discovered the little girl changing that information once I had already downloaded it into my computer. That was off the chart for me. Now, if she's speaking of like on an actual investigation where I got to see something or feel something or was able to interact. Okay.
I think that's what she means.
Okay. At the old, again, at the TB hospital in Paris, we had a session, an EVP session, where we played it back immediately. And what happened was I asked the spirit if they would make a sound that would be indicative to when they were there at the TB hospital, and we played it back, and within just seconds after me asking that, we picked up an EVP where there was no voice, but it was just this really gurgly breathing. It sounded like the depth of hell had opened up the door. I mean, it was just the scariest sound, but it sounded like someone that was struggling to breathe, and it scared the group. The group wanted to pack up and leave because we got it right when I asked for it, it happened. And so, but I had to explain to them that this was a man dying of TB, and that's the way he was breathing. So he came through for us, and he made a sound that was indicative to when he was there. And so that was very exciting for me to get that on requests just in a matter of seconds. And so, but as far as the worst, I really haven't ever had anything that was the worst. I've always had amazing, exciting, phenomenal, but I just never have. I've just never had any like really bad, any worst. I haven't.
Okay. Val also wanted to know, when investigating, how do you separate your natural fear from actual paranormal encounters?
Well, sometimes I think and I'm speaking for myself, sometimes I think that instead of fear, it's excitement. And because sometimes excitement will a little bit feel like fear. But I always tell my students, though, if you go into a place and you start to get really, like, the fear comes in, fear will really contaminate an investigation. So the best thing to do is, if you're just really, you've gone in, you feel fear, you're just really so uncomfortable, for whatever reason, then it might be best to back off, to leave, and maybe ask yourself, or if you're any type of psychic medium and you can kind of pick up things, then maybe the next time you choose to go back to a place that maybe doesn't have the reputation, or either go back with energy that you surround yourself with. Like, I always use the bright white light, which really works well for me. So, I mean, I hope that helps, but that's kind of what I do. Yeah.
Okay. Sandy wanted to know, when you were discussing in the beginning of the show about when you were like recording your notes for the day, she wanted to know, when did you realize that the voices you recorded was EVPs?
Well, because when I would come in the morning, I was by myself. So there was no one else in the shop. So I knew. I was like, oh, my God. So then that's when I started taking my recorder, and I would put a mic on it. And then I would record my entire ghost investigation. Everything would be recorded. And I would record it on 2 and 3 different recorders. And then I would listen to all of it. So if we went on a 4-hour ghost investigation, I would listen to 2 and 3 audios, and that's when I would start really, like, somebody would ask a question, like somebody said, oh, what is that lady's name over there? And they were actually talking about me, and then we were playing it back, and we were just listening to the different people talking, and then we heard an answer come through, and it was and what made it really different is because it was more of a whisper, because if you said, oh, what is that lady's name over there, someone would have said, oh, that's Patti, but no one would have whispered Patti, like that, because so then I realized that they were, and this is what's really crazy, I think, sometimes, is when we do our EVP session, I would have people sit in a circle, and then everybody turn their recorders on, and we might have 8 or 9 recorders going at the same time, and then we would ask a question, wait so many seconds, turn it off, and play it back, and out of, say, 8 recorders, 2 or 3 would have the same EVP, but none of the others. So people would say, well, how can that be? I mean, why doesn't they come to all of the recorders, and they don't? So that's why when I do an investigation, that I will use 2 or 3 recorders and listen to all of them, because a lot of times on each recorder I would get different EVPs.
Sure. Okay. Now, Justin, I don't know. Do you want me to ask Joe's question if you've seen it, or is that something you're going to be talking about later? It's about Scarefest.
Ask all the questions.
Okay. Joe wanted to know, is there any future changes happening with Scarefest? And if so, what is it?
Well, I think the best change, and I'll just have to give credit where credit is due. I actually sold my Scarefest to an awesome couple, Brandon and Nicole Griffith. And they have been truly, truly amazing. They're a young couple. They are both just so into the horror genre and the paranormal genre. And they are making some awesome improvements and adding more to it. And I get really excited each year. Like this past year was my second year not owning Scarefest. Now I'm going into the third year, but I'm very close with them. We communicate and talk, and it's just an awesome. I feel like there's an awesome future for Scarefest.
Okay, great. And that looks like that's all it is in YouTube for right now.
Awesome. All right. We'll get back to the question if any more pop up. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like you've been super duper active since you began this journey and, the ghost hunting and the paranormal investigation. I want to rewind a little bit back. You said early on that you had some experiences that you were telling your mother and your father. And
yeah.
Did you feel like everybody did you feel like this was normal? Everybody could do this, or what were you experiencing? Were you seeing things, hearing things, feeling things? Kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, yeah. When I was little, I just thought it was regular. I didn't, and it didn't really frighten me. I did have a couple when I was really little. I do remember that. And I've had shadow people in my life a lot, and I've never felt like they were anything evil or demonic. They for me. No, I like to always emphasize this because for someone else it could be totally different. But for me, I always felt like it was a protector. But I kind of learned my lesson kind of like the hard way. I was about 7, I think, or 8, and I'd been seeing these shadow people, and one night I woke up and it was very persistent. It was a very a lot of times I could just close my eyes and open them up and they'd be gone. But on this particular night, this shadow person, and it was male, was standing at the end of my bed, and no matter how hard I closed my eyes and opened them, they were there. And so I remember putting my sheet over my head thinking, I'm just going to put my sheet over my head and then they'll go away. And what happened was it yanked my sheet out of my hands. And I really kind of freaked out at that point. But then later, because I kept getting more and more visits, I realized that it was almost a playful thing. It's just that I had not experienced, especially a force that could move something. And I'd never experienced that. And then I was able to connect a little bit deeper into that particular shadow person that was still with me, still shows up every once in a while. And then I was comfortable with having the shadow people in my life. I know that when I was even younger, when I was 5 years old, my mother was a kind of a hard emotional mother. She wasn't a very cuddly and sweet. I mean, I love my mother, but she was just a little different than most mothers. And so one night she put me to bed, and I was having quite a few little visits during the night, and I was a little uneasy. So I asked her. I said, "Mom," I asked my mother. I said, "Please, when you shut the door, my bedroom door, would you please leave it cracked a little bit so I can have light in the bedroom?" Because we lived out in the country, and it was just pitch black when the lights went out. And she got a little upset with me. And she said, "Now, Patti, you know that there's nothing for you to be afraid of. The dark is okay. It's not, you don't have to be afraid of it." She said, "And Jesus Christ is in this room with you right now." So she was really upset with me that I didn't have enough faith, So she went to shut the door because she was going to make me sleep in the really dark room. She went to shut the door, and she heard me say in a real tiny little voice, I said, "Jesus, I know you in this room because my mama said you were, but please don't move or you're going to scare me to death.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's that I really I find that even then I found a little bit of humor in that.
Yeah, that says a lot about you, Patti. The fact that you can be stalked by shadow figures, have the bed sheet pulled from your grasp, and and all that, and be okay with it, says something about you. Do you feel like you're different? Do you think that's what?
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
have something
I
different going
do.
on?
I do. I've always felt like that I was almost like an alien here on Earth. I just I guess because of the different paths that I've had to walk down. I remember again when I was around 11, I think. In our Baptist church, we had this little group of girls. It's called the GAs, as Girls Auxiliaries, and you had to be initiated. So my initiation, when I went that night, they told me, they said, you're going to have to walk through a graveyard all by yourself. And of course I was like, oh no, but it was like the happiest evening. I mean, they did it to scare me, but there was no scary part of it. It was kind of cool. So then I realized, I said, yeah, I'm different.
Right on. Well, you're with friends tonight, and I'm sure, through all the classes you've done and public events and through Scarefest, I mean, you have to feel like that, you're not as different as you once thought.
Oh, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
There is a lot of questions. We got to get back. I will ask Facebook, are they having problems? Is the stream are they having problems watching it on Facebook? Because it looks fine from my end.
I think they're just talking about the conversation, Ed, because I have nobody talking.
Okay, yeah, because I have Sandy. I guess she switched over to YouTube, and she said that she was actually typing questions and comments in, but they weren't even showing up on the screen.
Yeah, I don't see them.
Okay, and then she also she said that there was a question that she saw from Philip, and so something must be going on with Facebook. But she told me the question what Philip wanted to know. Patti, do you work with mediums on investigations?
Yes. I think anytime that you can, like I said, the science and the sensitive, anytime that you can take mediums, sensitives, psychics, as long as they understand when they're invited what their role is, and whatever you want that role to be, just make sure that they don't understand it. I did make I won't say a mistake, but I did not explain that thoroughly one time. And so what happened was the whole investigation really just became about that particular person. And and then I realized that when we do have the psychics, the sensitive, the mediums, just knowing what their position would be and what you need to receive from them, and then it makes everything even, because then you can keep the ghost investigation on kill, and having everything that you need to do, that it all gets done. But then you do appreciate their energy and their reads and anything that they can pull from that.
Awesome. Any other questions? I think I saw a few, right?
I have two on I have 4 on Facebook, actually.
Okay.
Heather Elliott asked, what advice or investigation tips would you give today's investigators? Is there anything you feel we should focus on more?
Well, to be really honest with you, when I speak with other groups, the variety of things that people do during investigations are just awesome. So for me, I think that I would just encourage you to always try something different. Try. In especially in my earlier years, I used to do silly things. I would take like black plastic and put it down, and then I would shake baby powder on it, take a picture of it, and see if I come back. Once in a while, you'd come back, and there'd be different patterns within the baby powder, or either get ping pong balls and put it on a mat with an X, and then figure out ways of positioning it, and just play, just have fun, just do different things. And when you're doing things like dowsing with either pendulums or with dowsing rods, think of really unique questions to ask, and how you ask them is very, very important, because you need to be really specific and not too general. Just keep just experiment all the time. Now, if you ever do something that really seems to have great effect, like I love my EVPs. I do EVPs everywhere I go. So I love really working with EVPs. And so once you start going on these investigations, and if you do get a set pattern that seems to work, stay with that. But always just keep trying different things. And also listen to your other groups around. Listen to other people that are going, and they've got their own group, and even if they're living in another country and they have different weird beliefs about ghosts different than ours, and they have their own per se, like monsters and things that they fear. If you learn as much as you can about other cultures, I think that broadens your experience. Another thing that broadens your experience, especially when you investigate families, is psychology and learning family dynamics, and learning how, like sometimes when you go into a family situation, there may be a lot more there that's not revealed and not necessarily would be attributed to the paranormal once you start to understand the different personalities. And then, of course, when I get asked to go to schools and things, and little kids that they're so cute, I'll say, "Who wants to be a ghost hunter?" And they all raise their hands. And then I say, "Do you know what subjects you really need to be good in order to be a good ghost hunter?" And they're like, "What? And I'm like, "All of them." Because all of society, everything, science and geology, and learning about earth and stones and personalities and structure, everything matters. Energies, light, how light bends, the different wavelengths of sound. I mean, everything that you can learn will, I promise you, assist you as a ghost hunter.
I have to agree with that. Keep on going.
Okay.
Yep.
What do you think about the new devices coming out? Reliable, or do you rely on EVPs?
Well, I like to tell people that all the different instruments coming out, we call them like, oh, these are our little scientific instruments. But really, a lot of these things, I basically refer to them as my toys. And I know that people are like, what? Toys? But sometimes we can't absolutely prove that what's happening within that instrument, just like your meters. See, when I do meters, I will ask yes and no questions. And I will ask the ghost, I will say, make my meter go off if it's yes, do nothing if it's no. Then I'll ask a question, and then the meter goes off. And I really feel like at that point, I am really communicating with spirit. But there is absolutely no way that I can prove that. I am not in any kind of controlled environment. I don't have any rigid rules or regulations. So sometimes with some of these things that come out, and you can put them on your phone, like the ghost radar and different things. I think there's an eye-ovilus. Well, I always look at it this way. Just kind of play with it. That's why I call it a toy. Play with it. And if you were to ask a question, and an answer pops up, like, for instance, if I could say, can you give me a name? And the name James pops up, and we just got an apparition picture of Jesse James, then I'm going to use that app maybe for a little bit just to see if the information continues to be validated. But then if it's not, like you're in a barn and you're investigating a ghost horse or something, and then you keep getting words like a boat or a book or something in the kitchen like bread or something like that, and it doesn't make any sense, then shut it down, because it's obviously what is out there, the energy that's out there is not working with you.
Yeah, that's really good advice too.
Okay, and then I finally got one of Philip's questions. I do see it, guys. It's he asked, what are her thoughts on crossing over earthbound spirits on an investigation, and does she use ITC?
Okay, can you repeat that, sweetie? It broke up a little bit.
Yeah, he said, what are your thoughts on crossing over earthbound spirits on an investigation, and does she use ITC?
And what was the last? Do I use what?
ITC.
Instrumental transcommunicators?
Yeah.
Usually, when I do crossovers, I'm thinking, I hope I hear this question correctly. I'm talking about going into a place, doing an investigation, and then I feel like what's there needs to be crossed over. Is that the question being asked?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't actually go into places thinking every place I go into, I'm going to do a crossover. I just really go in, and then when I feel like there's something there that, like, for instance, when I do use the Ovilus or the PX, if I get the words that come out like help and light, and there's 3, and take us now, and that type of thing, yes, I will do a crossover. And as far as using an ITC, basically, I don't use an instrument for crossover. I just do a ritual prayer, and then and I usually do that at the end of my crossover. But if there is something out there with an ITC that you can use during a crossover, I would like to learn about it. So I'm hoping that that'll be a new thing for me in my future.
Well, to kind of help with, I think what Philip was really asking is, do you use ITC at all? I know you said that you use EVP, which is a form of ITC. Anything
ITC,
else?
Yes. Okay, ITC can be several different instruments. My smartphone, the smartphone, is the best ITC right now that you can have, because ITC being instrumental transcommunicator, I feel like we're getting more apparitions and more awesome videos with our smartphone than we did in the past, also with the EVP. So I love using my smartphone as part of the ITC, instrumental transcommunicators. Now, another ITC is like a TV, your computer, and also fax machines. Now, years ago, I used to use this where you would connect the TV to a camcorder, and then you would put it in a box, and then you would just film like a feedback, and you would get pictures, and you would get voices. I haven't done that in years, but at one time I did do that. And then sometimes there is a website that you can go to, and it's called worlditc.org. And it's a phenomenal website, especially for ghost hunters. And you can go on there, and you can see the instruments, the ITC instruments and things that they use, and the wonderful EVPs. They get EVPs that come through that are like paragraphs, 2 or 3 paragraphs from scientists that are coming through and giving us information on, what's available in the spirit world.
Really?
Oh, yes. It's an awesome website. I love it. You should really check it out.
I think I've ran across it before, but that claim is, incredible. I would like to see how they're getting that. That's definitely interesting.
Right. It is so wonderful, especially if I've gone on there and I've heard like a paragraph. And what I like is they write it out, what they're saying, because it's kind of difficult. It's not like a clear connection. You know how that is when the EVPs come through. It's called worlditc.org.
All right. I will jot that down. Any other questions? I don't, if we have to extend, Patti only has an hour. I don't want to have to extend it too much longer. But any really good questions you got for her before we wrap this up?
I don't have anything on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't have any good ones on Facebook. Philip said like a PSB7.
Do you use spirit boxes, Patti?
I don't. I not personally for myself. I have one, and when I teach classes, I do demonstrate, and when I do group ghost investigations, I will use those. But for me, though, I get such good EVPs that just come through on regular recorders that I enjoy getting a more clear message.
All righty. Well, I don't want to hold you up too much longer, Patti. It was awesome having you on the show. Do you want to plug anything? I do have in the video description on these live streams, I have your website.
Thank you.
Some Facebook links. And but is there anything else you want to plug? Any events you have coming up? Anything that you want to let people know?
Well, if you're in Lexington or Bardstown, I do have those ghost walks during the summer, June until October. They start at 8 o'clock. One's on Friday night. The one in Lexington's on Friday night, and the one in Bardstown's on Saturday night. And I have just recently, locally, I don't do it online anymore, but locally, if you're in the Lexington area, I am doing a condensed class where I do certify. So if anybody's interested, and I'm not going to do that very long. This just happened to, I just had, by popular demand, so many people really pressing me to do it. And so you can find out that information on my website as well. So if you're interested in coming to Lexington for a class. Also, Mystical Fair, Lex, is a once a month fair that my dear friends own, and I go to that. And it's a lot of fun. So if you're in the Lexington area, you might want to check that out. They have vendors and readers and all types of wonderful things going on there.
Awesome. It's been wonderful talking to you, Patti. I know we would probably, can go on for hours and hours and hours, but maybe some other time we'll, have you on,
sure.
Or someone can go to one
anytime.
of your events or classes or Scarefest and talk to you in length about anything they want to know.
Oh, that would be great. That would be awesome. I sure do appreciate it.
You are very welcome. If you want to, I'm going to wrap the show up. If you want to, you can just hang out on the call, or you can just hang up. But if you hang up, Patti, thank you again for filling in tonight. You're a delight to have on the show.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm just really honored that I got to be on your show, and the two wonderful ladies that are there and that was so sweet in helping us and asking the questions. I thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Uh-huh. And I will be just hanging up, okay?
All right. You have a good night.
All right. Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, there you have it, Patti Starr. Much more to learn and know about that that beautiful soul named Patti Starr. I definitely want to talk to her in person. She just makes me feel good. She's got that, that energy that just makes you feel good. So please check out her website. It is a very, very nice website. I've checked it out. All the other links that I have in the video description. Make sure you check out Patti's stuff because, there is definitely, like she said, something to learn from each and every guest and person that is, putting in work in the paranormal field. So let's do it. Let's strengthen the paranormal community. So awesome show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Next week, I have not put up a poll for the paranormal soapbox topics yet, but I will do that tonight. Next Wednesday, we're going to have our very own Matt Benton on to talk about how the Man vs. Paranormal film is coming and his plans for 2019. So that should be interested if you have not been following what Matt's been doing and the stuff that he has planned for Interface Death. You want to check that out. The Supernatural Symposium on Live Paranormal is going to be airing again next Monday. And We're going to have Holly Mullins back. We're going to have Heather Elliott on the show, and we're going to have a longtime friend that I've been connected on Facebook. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name at the moment. I'm sorry, Jim, but he is a professor. And we're going to be discussing EVP in detail for 2 hours on Live Paranormal. So look out for that video event coming up. You guys been great. We're going to go over here to the social screen. Please check out our paranormal work at interfacedeath.net. We're going to talk about Patreon/support Interface Death in a moment, but that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind. You can follow the show on Facebook. And you can follow Interface Death on Twitter and Instagram. We put out a lot of cool photography, and we give you constant updates on Twitter, so make sure you follow us on all those social platforms as well. And last but not least, Patreon. We echo and stress this every show. If you love this content, if you want to see it get better, if you want to see it stay and just be what it is, let's talk about it. Patreon.com. $1 a month, whatever you can afford. There's rewards for how you can support us financially. It's not just the shows. It's the paranormal research. It's the film and video production. It's everything under the Interface Death umbrella. Check it all out. If it's something that you want to do, you can get rewards and exclusive content. People like Clay Borman, R.J. Murphy, Danette Goldtrip, Jessica Bias, Scotty Fox, Sherry Brett, Bill Davis, and Joe Vitale. They are making sure that this is what it is, okay? And I stress to you, I just don't say this. They're the reason why this content is the way it is. So thank you very much. And there you have it. I'm going to leave it there. You guys have a wonderful night. Please stay tuned for the video promotions at the end of the show if you have not seen them. You guys have a good evening, and I will see you next time.
room over here? What the fuck, dude? Whoa. That's weird.
You didn't do anything, right?
No, I just turned.
Justin too close.
No,
He opened that door and then went off.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just run out of there?
What was that?
I don't know. I feel like I can't breathe in this room.
Generally, Justin, when you guys investigate, do you just take long pauses, wait to see if you hear things, observe everything that's going on?
It depends on the location and our experience with the location. So in this case, at Waverly Hills, since we've been here before, we've heard a lot of stories, done a lot of research, and investigated, we typically like to listen a lot because we hear the coughing, we heard it last time, so we can hear it again.
Side effects of prolonged isolation: paranoia, depression, helplessness, brain stimuli decreases. Now, what happens when you put a man isolated in 3 paranormal infested buildings for 3 nights in each location, all by himself? No one to help me. No one to protect me. Just me versus you. Does paranormal activity increase?
So what do you think of this piece of evidence?
I think by far it's the best piece of evidence we have seen here.
That's flat out amazing. And that's something we've never captured.
Oh, wow.
What? Nobody has ever got it on video.
That's creepy.
In 11 years.
So no one's ever caught this on video?
Never.
Ever.
Here is my story, and here is what I went through for my research into the paranormal. Push the door, please.